Weekend Project.
Hello, fellow chopperoos. The Big Chopperoo and Safety Dan was here. At any rate, he'll be back in a little bit.
Beer run.
Today's episode is a simple way to make tenons on your table saw. Every woodworker has to make tenons. Whether you're building cabinet doors, tables, or chairs, tenons are essential. Now, there's several ways that you could do this. You could do it by hand. You could do it with an expensive fixture or jig. But one of the ways that I like to do it is with this simple jig. Now, it fits over my fence on the table saw, and it has a sacrificial board to keep the tenon cuts nice and clean. The best part is, this whole jig was made out of scrap plywood from laying around in my shop. The tenon is composed of two cuts, the cheek cut and the shoulder cut. I'll begin by making lines for what will be the length of the tenon. This will also be the line for the shoulder cut later. Then I'll use the marking gauge to make the width of the tenon. Now, let's put this jig to work. I begin by clamping the workpiece to the jig, making sure it's flat and square. I then raise the blade to the height of the tenon. I move the fence over to my first mark, and I'll make the first cut. Now note that the guard is removed from the table saw, so extreme caution is to be used. Turning the saw off, I flip the board around, and I'll check the alignment mark to make the other cut.
It's good.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Now that you've made the cheek cuts, it's time to make the shoulder cuts. Now there's several ways you could do this. You could do it on an old miter saw box, you could do it by hand, bandsaw, but I'm still going to use the table saw. I'll raise the blade to the height of that cheek cut. I line my piece with the blade. Then I place the jig between the fence and the workpiece, and I lock the fence in place. I then move the jig back and make the cuts. This method keeps the waste from being caught between the fence and the blade.
Caution!
There you are, tenons done easy. Now I'll give you a few tips to make sure that you get a good fit.
1.
Before you make your tenon, make your mortise first. See, your mortise might be slightly bigger when you're done after you've cleaned up the inside with a chisel. So it's a good idea that after you made the mortise, to set your marking gauge to that size to make the tenon.
2.
The second thing I do to ensure a good fit, well, I make the tenon just slightly fatter. See, I can always plane it or file it thinner, but if it's too thin, well, it's a whole lot harder to make it fatter. Come on! Eat! I need you fatter! Oh, come on! So there you go. Try these tips and you should have success at making good fitting tenons.
I saw you using the table saw without taking any of my advice.
Oh yeah. Come on, Safety, we know what you're going to say. It's always the same old lines. Wear your hearing protection and safety glasses.
Yeah, well, I got some new lines for you.
Oh, really? Well, by then all means, go ahead.
Go you dumb. What the?
I think I like the old lines better. So if you like what you saw today, subscribe to us on YouTube, leave a comment, or give us a thumbs up.
Or you can give them a thumbs down and join us on Facebook and Twitter.
And if you go to woodshopandtime.com, you can download free the plans for this jig. Well, there's one more thing that I gotta do.
Chad, I think it's time for you to dance.
Oh, yeah.
Support for this program provided by
Scatter-the-boo, scatter-the-doo, scatter-doo, that rich-a-doo.
So try these tips and you should have success at making good fitting tenons. Hello.
Yeah, well, I got some new lines for you.
Oh, really? Well, then go ahead.
I knew that was going to happen.
This should be easy to say to me. And either give us a thumbs up or a comment. That seemed pretty good.